a faraway kingdom, there lived a mighty king named Derek and his beloved wife, Queen May. They were kind rulers, loved by their people for their generosity and wisdom. However, despite their wealth and power, there was one thing they lacked for many years: a child. They prayed day and night, visited wise men, and performed many sacrifices, hoping the gods would bless them with a child. At last, after many years of waiting, Queen May gave birth to a son. The entire kingdom rejoiced at the birth of Prince Joe. The king and queen were overjoyed, believing their prayers had finally been answered. They raised their son with love, providing him with the best of everything: fine clothes, the best teachers, and all the luxuries of the palace. But as Prince Joe grew older, something became clear. He was not like his parents. Prince Joe was arrogant and rude. He looked down on people and treated them harshly. He spoke to servants with no respect, insulted the elderly, and cared for no one but himself. Whenever anyone tried to correct him, he would lash out in anger. Many times he made people cry, but he never cared about their feelings. The king and queen were heartbroken. How could their only son, whom they had waited so long for, behave this way? King Derek and Queen May tried their best to change him. They gave him advice, showed him kindness, and even punished him when necessary. But nothing worked. Prince Joe only became worse with time. The people of the kingdom whispered among themselves. "Our king and queen are such good people," they said, "but the gods have punished them with this son." Seeing that their efforts were failing, the king and queen decided to seek help from the gods. They visited herbalists and oracles, hoping to find answers. Some told them that their son was under a curse, while others said he was simply born with a wicked heart. The couple performed sacrifices and rituals, but nothing changed. Prince Joe remained as arrogant as ever. One day, King Derek and Queen May called their son to the royal chamber. "My son," the king began gently, "you are a prince, and one day you will rule this kingdom. But a king must be kind, wise, and just. Why do you treat people so badly?" Prince Joe frowned and scoffed. "Father, why should I care about these people? They are beneath me." Queen May held his hand, her eyes filled with sadness. "Joe, my son, people will only respect a leader who respects them. If you continue this way, no one will stand by you when you need them." But instead of listening, Prince Joe became angry. He pulled his hand away and shouted, "I don't need anyone. I am the prince, and I will do as I please." Before the king and queen could say another word, Prince Joe stormed out of the chamber, slamming the door behind him. The situation became worse with time. Prince Joe even started to raise his hands against his parents. One day, in front of the villagers, he lost his temper and hit his father. The crowd gasped in shock. Never in history had a prince dared to strike a king. Strike him. The villagers whispered, "This prince has no respect, not even for his own parents. What kind of ruler will he become?" Tears filled Queen May's eyes as she watched the son she had prayed for turn into something she could not recognize. King Derek, though hurt and ashamed, remained silent. The entire kingdom grew worried. If Prince Joe continued this way, what kind of king would he become? Would he bring disaster upon the land? The king and queen knew they had to do something. But what could they do to change their only son? Prince Joe's arrogance grew worse with time. He no longer cared who he hurt with his words or actions. The villagers feared him. The palace servants trembled at his sight, and even his own parents could not control him. What made matters worse was how he treated women. He saw them as nothing more than objects for his pleasure. He would sleep with them, make them fall in love, and then abandon them without a second thought. He changed women like clothes, discarding them as soon as he lost interest. Many of these women left the palace in tears, cursing him as they walked away. Some swore that he would never find peace. Others prayed that the gods would punish him for his cruelty. But Prince Joe laughed at them all. "No one can harm me," he would say. "I am the prince, and I can do whatever I want." One fateful day, Prince Joe met a beautiful young woman named Rose. She was different from the others, innocent, gentle, and full of kindness. Though she had heard about the prince's wicked ways, she believed that deep down there was good in everyone. She thought maybe, just maybe, she could change him. But she was wrong. After spending a short time with Rose, Prince Joe grew tired of her, just like he did with all the others. Without warning, he told her to leave his palace. treating her like she meant nothing. Rose fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you doing this to me?" she asked in a broken voice. "I gave you my heart," Prince Joe smirked, "and I don't want it anymore. Now leave before I have you thrown out." With a shattered heart, Rose ran home, crying uncontrollably. She lived with her grandmother, an old woman known to many as mysterious and powerful. Some called her a healer, others a witch, but no one dared to cross her. When Rose reached home, she collapsed into her grandmother's arms, sobbing. "Grandmother, the prince has ruined me. He used me and threw me away like I was nothing." The old woman's eyes darkened. She wiped Rose's tears and whispered, "Do not cry, my child. That arrogant prince will learn a lesson he will never forget." The next morning, Rose's grandmother made her way to the palace. The guards, sensing something strange about her presence, allowed her to pass without question. Prince Joe was in his chambers when he heard someone enter. He turned and saw an old woman staring at him with piercing eyes. "Who let this old hag into my palace?" he snapped. The old woman ignored his insult. "Prince Joe," she said calmly, "I have come to ask you one question. Why did you treat my granddaughter so badly?" Prince Joe smirked. "Who is your granddaughter?" "Rose," she replied. Prince Joe laughed. "Oh, that girl? She was fun for a while, but I got bored. Now she is of no use to me." The old woman's face remained calm, but her eyes burned with anger. "You have hurt many women. You have disrespected your parents. You have mistreated your people. You think you are untouchable. But today you will learn that even a prince can fall." Prince Joe rolled his eyes. "Old woman, get out of my sight before I have you thrown out." The old woman chuckled. "Very well. But before I leave, let me give you something to remember me by." She raised her hand, pointed at him, and spoke in a deep, powerful voice. "From this moment on, the thing you have used to bring pain to women shall bring pain to you instead." Before Prince Joe could react, a burning sensation spread through his lower body. He screamed in agony and looked down. His eyes widened in horror. His manhood was changing, twisting, stretching, and transforming before his very eyes. It grew longer, thicker, and began to move. It was no longer human. It was a snake. A living, breathing, writhing snake. Joe's scream echoed through the palace. He grabbed at his clothes, trying to cover himself, but the snake hissed and coiled beneath his garments. The old woman smiled. "You have used your manhood to destroy innocent women. Now let's see how you feel when it turns against you." And with that, she disappeared into thin air. Joe collapsed to the floor, shaking. The guards, hearing his cries, rushed in. But when they saw what had happened, they ran away in fear. Prince Joe, once proud and arrogant, now lay in humiliation. For the first time in his life, he felt powerless. For the first time, he knew what it meant to suffer. Would he ever return to normal? Or was this his fate forever? Prince Joe lay on his royal bed, shaking and crying like a child. He could not believe what had happened to him. His once proud and powerful manhood had turned into a writhing, living snake, and there was nothing he could do about it. He had mocked women, treated people like dirt, and now he was paying the price for his actions. Meanwhile, King Derek and Queen May were in deep distress. Their only son, whom they had waited for so many years, was now cursed in the most humiliating way. They could not eat, they could not sleep, they had to do something. The next morning, they set out to find Rose's grandmother, the woman who had placed the curse on their son. With heavy hearts, they walked through the village, seeking out her small hut at the edge of the kingdom. When they arrived, the old woman was already expecting them. She sat calmly outside her hut, stirring a pot of herbs, a knowing smile on her face. "We have come to beg you, great mother," King Derek said, bowing slightly. "Please have mercy on our son. Undo what you have done to him." Queen May fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "We are sorry for the pain our son has caused. Please, we beg you, help us." The old woman looked at them and sighed. "I do not place curses for no reason," she said. "Your son has destroyed the lives of many innocent women. He has humiliated people, treated his own parents with disrespect, and made the villagers suffer. Do you think it is right for him to go unpunished?" The king and queen remained silent, ashamed of their son's past actions. The old woman continued, "I will undo what I have done, but only on 3 conditions." The couple listened attentively. "First," she said, "your son must marry my granddaughter Rose and treat her like a queen. The king and queen nodded eagerly. Anything you ask, we will do. Second, she continued, he must change his ways and treat the people of this kingdom with kindness and respect. The king and queen exchanged hopeful glances. This was exactly what they had always wanted. Third, she said, he must be a loving and faithful husband to my granddaughter for the rest of his life. If he fails to do this, he will return to the same condition, or worse. The king and queen immediately agreed. We will make sure he follows these conditions. With that, they hurried back to the palace to tell Prince Joe the terms. Joe, still lying in bed, groaning in pain and fear, looked up when his parents entered his chamber. My son, King Derek said gently, we have found a way for you to be free from this curse. Joe's eyes widened with hope. What? How? Queen May sat beside him and held his hand. Rose's grandmother has agreed to undo the curse, but you must promise to change your ways. Joe nodded quickly. I'll do anything. Please, just make this nightmare go away. His father continued, you must marry Rose and treat her like a queen. You must be kind to everyone, and you must be a faithful, loving husband forever. Prince Joe did not hesitate. I will, I promise. I will be a better man. I will love and cherish Rose for the rest of my life. Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, his parents took him back to Rose's grandmother. The old woman stood before him and stared deep into his soul. Are you ready to change, Prince Joe? Yes, he said, bowing his head in shame. I have learned my lesson. I will never mistreat anyone again. The old woman took a handful of herbs, muttered some incantations, and blew the herbs over him. Immediately the snake disappeared, and Joe felt normal again. He sighed in relief, falling to his knees. Thank you, he whispered. But the old woman raised a finger. Remember, young man, if you ever go back to your old ways, your punishment will be far worse. I could turn your manhood into a goat, a lion, or even a dog, so be careful. Joe nodded quickly, fear in his eyes. I will never go back to my old ways. That same week, Prince Joe and Rose were married in a grand royal wedding. The entire kingdom gathered to witness the event. Many could not believe it. Prince Joe, the arrogant and cruel prince, had become a kind and humble man. He looked at Rose with love and care, treating her like a precious jewel. After their marriage, Joe continued to prove that he had changed. He respected the villagers, apologized to those he had wronged, and treated his wife with love and devotion. King Derek and Queen May were overjoyed. They could not believe the transformation in their son. They visited Rose's grandmother and thanked her sincerely. Never mind, the old woman said, smiling. Some people just need to learn the hard way. From that day forward, Prince Joe ruled the kingdom with wisdom and kindness. He and Rose lived happily together, raising their children with love and respect. Moral lessons. 1. Pride and arrogance lead to destruction. 2. Treat others with respect, no matter your status. 3. What goes around comes around. Karma is real. 4. Sometimes life teaches lessons in painful ways, but those who learn from them can change for the better. Final message. Thank you, my dear viewers, for following this story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more amazing stories. Stick around because there are many more exciting tales coming your way.